Welcome to What's the Effort?
What the Effort?
Hello, everyone. Hello, welcome. Happy New Year's to everyone, because this is now 2024, guys. This is the year. So I am starting the year off with a real bang. I have a very special guest today. I have Omni Casey. Omni, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. Someone of your stature and experience is a blessing, and I want to say thank you so much for that. All right, I'm going to start off by asking just a little bit about your origin story. I'd like to know a little bit about your childhood, from when you were little up to about high school. You know, where were you? Did you have siblings? What's your birth order if you have siblings? And
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
was like school?
Man, that goes deep. That's a good one. First off, amazing intro. I love watching all that. I love your energy. I know we've connected for a while, but just chatting before this, love your story as well. But
you.
so the origin story, if you will, I've told that a couple times, but I've been rethinking kind of what actually parts of my childhood actually made the biggest impact in my life. And, things that I didn't know were very impactful. Actually, I'm realizing as I'm kind of peeling back the onion of who I am right now, there are some things that stood out. So actually, I was homeschooled, one of 8 siblings, grew up in Hawaii, and homeschooled elementary and middle school. And that's kind of was a cliff note in my journey, but I'm realizing that it's a much bigger part of my journey than ever before. When you were homeschooled, one, that's a label, and now it's more normalized. Back then, it was weird. It was very weird. We were the only kids in the entire community that were homeschooled, and so that became your label, if you let it be your label. We were well adjusted. We had an amazing community of one. We had 8 kids within our household, so we have
so you weren't alone.
built-in friends or family, but we had a nice community of friends. We had we're very active in our church, and so we had church friends, we had scouting friends, we had team sport friends, and so we were very, very active outside of us being homeschooled. But in those different friend groups, like, if you let yourself be the label that, like, you're the homeschool kid, or you're the weird kid, or whatever it was. And I was never afraid of being different. I actually really like being different, but I really don't like labels being put on me or being told this is who you are. And so I realized at a fairly early age, if I didn't want a label, I needed to be the leader, because now I make my own label, and then the label is you're the group leader, whatever it is. And so
That's a good point.
Yeah, because there's only room for one label, right? And so you're not the homeschool kid if you're the leader of the group. And so that's kind of, I think, what led me to always just wanting to be the leader, because I don't want any other label being put on me. Looking back now, I'm quite proud of the schooling journey that I went on. There's so much entrepreneurial, lessons that I learned, being homeschooled. My mom taught us all, and as a family, kind of effort. My grandmother was a great artist, so she taught us art, and my
Nice.
dad had a construction and roofing company, and so we learned a little bit about business that side. But what I benefited from the most was really being able to control the output. It's not just clock in and then clock out at the end of the school day. It was really because my mom was just one person. She could not be with every single one of us all the
Right.
time. She had to give us assignments, right? So we had our meeting, and then here's the assignment for the day or sometimes for the week. And so we can decide, do I want to be 9 to 5 or 9 to 4, whatever it is, or can I just knock out all of these assignments in 2 or 3 days? And that's what I ended up doing. I got really
Wow.
good at just cramming all day for 2 or 3 days, getting all of my assignments out of the way. And so now I had 3, 4, 5 days of free time that I could be creative and do whatever I wanted, do things that brought me joy, or that kind of got me down the path of learning to be an entrepreneur and starting various businesses. So I think,
Well, that's cool.
yeah, and thinking through, nature versus nurture. I don't know if I'm an entrepreneur by nature. I have no idea, but by nurture, by my environment, I think that was the only path that I saw. My parents both had businesses, and I just said that's who I want to be. So I never went down the traditional, let me go be an employee path. I just always knew I wanted to own the business versus be a part of someone else's business. Kind of the path I went on business wise, that kind of started me out on my journey before I got into real estate.
That's funny and interesting, very interesting. So, did you go to school, public school, in high school?
Yes. So at
Must have
high
been a bit of
school,
a transition.
it was, to be honest, I don't know if I learned one thing in high school, because my parents were so advanced. Like at that age, there was no real online platforms for us to use. So she was able to teach us through secondhand school books that she got from a family teachers. But we ended up getting like college level math, college level textbooks, and that's all we had, right? And so
Nice.
we were so ahead of the game in terms of what we were learning at home. But by the time I went to school, you take all the advanced classes, and it's like you're not really learning much. So it was pretty boring for me. We each individually had the option to go to school, primarily if we wanted to play high school sports, and that's what I wanted to do. So I did go to high school in Hawaii, and but by that point we had the same friend groups, all the various groups that we were a part of. Now we're just going to school with them. So it was a transition, but wasn't as big as one would think.
Interesting. Interesting. And did you go to college or did you just jump into school, into work?
Yeah, I did. So a couple different things. I went to college, studied business, international business. I actually did a volunteer missionary path, 2 years in Japan as well, were for my
Oh,
church. And so I decided to, kind of go down this path of being a volunteer, and primarily we taught a lot of English. We did missionary work for our church as well. That probably had a huge influence, once again, of me kind of being comfortable stepping outside of my comfort zone,
right.
and meeting new people and starting new things, and living in a country that I had no idea really much about. I'm from Hawaii, and I'm actually part Japanese, so it was intriguing to go
Oh,
back to
interesting.
my ancestor, my culture, but it's a foreign country, right? I was there for 2 years, and I would meet people like 90 years old working in the rice paddy field, and I'm the first non-Japanese person they ever met in their life.
Oh
And
my
so that's the type of country
wow.
I went to. It wasn't Tokyo, it was out in the country. So it was definitely a culture shock for me, culture shock for a lot of people, but a lot of lessons that I'm still peeling back the onion of. Okay, that's where I learned this, or that's where I became this person. So yeah, that's part of
That's
my story as
interesting.
well.
Um, Out of curiosity, did you learn Japanese?
Yes, I'm fluent in Japanese.
Oh, yay.
Um, my business, even in real estate, some of my first clientele or partners were Japanese of origin. So,
Oh, how nice.
that helped quite a bit. Since I transitioned and I moved to the East Coast, I'm in Northern Virginia, DC area now. Not a lot of chance to use, Japanese for business, but I still do try to keep it up. And I think it's, conversational at best right now.
Yeah, yeah. I taught ESL for 13 years when I went back to Vancouver. And, I love the Japanese people. Had so many Japanese students, and the language is interesting. It's very difficult. I couldn't even try, but I think it's awesome that you got that cultural difference that is way, first off, you're in Hawaii, which is a little bit off by itself. You guys have a little bit of a
Yeah.
identity crisis, but the thing is, when you go to Japan, you realize, whoa, we're all people, but we're so different too, and we're all the same. So I think that's awesome that you learned that at a young age.
Yeah, that difference in culture, as you mentioned, is such a shock. And if there's like one thing that I wish was more readily available for kids growing up, in school or in gap years or whatever it may be, is more of these overseas opportunities, and just living and experiencing, not just visiting, but actually living and being a part of a different culture. That was a huge kind of eye opener for me to realize how big the world was. My world is so small, and it just needed to just expand from there.
Right, right. I'm going to give a shout out to Maura Holmes. Thank you. I agree with you fully on that, for sure.
What's up, Jay?
So talk to us a little bit about the start in real estate. It's interesting to hear that your childhood was a little different and it created a leader. But when did you first get into real estate, and how did you start off? What were the first 5 years like?
Yeah, I didn't know. So prior to real estate, I think financial freedom, that's a concept that's thrown around a lot right now. But like in high school, I don't know if I've ever heard that phrase before. Like that wasn't something that was taught or talked about. And really, the concept of me wanting, I knew I just wanted to be free. I wanted my own flexibility and creativity, and really no boundaries on what I wanted to do with my life. And ultimately, that led me down a path to realize there's this thing called financial freedom that some people have, most people don't. And I needed to figure out how to get there. Right. And it was through business, the path that I went down of, all right, I'm setting up businesses. And if I'm able to hire the right people and separate myself from the business, there's a level of financial independence, or maybe even financial freedom.
Right.
That you kind of go down that path, and various businesses, and
What sort of
what,
businesses?
so one of my favorite businesses was, so I worked at a surf shop on Oahu in Hawaii. We sold surfboards, we taught surfing, and people would come in for consignment. So they would bring in their old surfboards and they would sell it to the surf shop. And then the surf shop would either sell it at a profit, or they would allow them to come on consignment. The surf shop wouldn't buy it, but they would basically get paid a fee if that board sells. Every once in a while, we're overstocked or whatever it may be. The board wasn't of interest, and the store owners wouldn't want to buy the surfboard. And then in those opportunities, I personally, evaluated, went out and talked to them. Hey, I'll personally buy this surfboard. Let me buy the surfboard. And being as an employee of the surf shop, one, we're spending a lot of time out there, waxing the board and fixing boards just to kill time while we talk to guests. I was able to get some of my coworkers to take these damaged boards while they're there, fix them up for free. And so now we took something of low value, raised it up on value, and we're able to sell it at a margin. So before I knew what fixing and flipping was, that's what I was doing, fixing and flipping surfboards.
Oh, that's hysterical. That's hysterical.
And I was good at it, made a lot of money doing it. And it's just something that I'm like, man, this is good. How do I do this at quantity, at scale? That became difficult because you're limited on how many, surfboards actually opportunities come in the door. But being able to hire somebody else to go and raise the value for you and still make a margin, I love that concept.
So you were working with a team, like whether it's was it commission based? I guess it would be. Like
Yeah.
if you fix
So
this
we
board and
we
it sells, I'll give you some of it.
yeah, we were salesperson. So we
Nice.
basically sold surfboards. We sold, surf gear, surf short. Surf and Sea is the name of the shop. It's still there today. One of the most popular surf shops in the U.S. In Haleiwa. If anyone goes out there, you can go visit. But so we just sold everything, right? With everything from surfboards to just T-shirts and things like that. And we were on commission, so that was a lot of sales. But there was always a greeter outside, and for the ambiance and to really just kill time and not stand there doing nothing, we'd basically pull out some of these old boards, and we had the supplies there, and we just sand them down and fix them up, while we're killing time, because you're typically there
Yep.
for a 2 to 3 hour shift. So it wasn't part of our job to do that necessarily. It's just what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And so there was someone there all day, every day. And I just said, hey, these are my boards. When you're out here, if you wouldn't mind, please just fix these up and put some effort into them. And they did it for free. So literally it wasn't a business for anyone other than me. If they sold my board, they got a commission to sell my board, but they got a commission to sell any board.
Yep.
But I would say they probably had a higher incentive because we were friends, right? So
Oh, that's sweet.
it was a way to leverage that. And then at some point I started to think about, okay, I like this. I'm good at adding value or creating value. Like, how do I get to the next level? And I went from how do I buy 100 surfboards to how can I just buy something more expensive and do this at a higher price point? And that's where I got into real estate. At some
Oh,
point
good.
in that process, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I related it to real estate, as well. And I just became obsessed with real estate. I actually found one of my first mentors at that surf shop, selling him a surfboard. And once I started to get curious about real estate, I still had no clue what it was or how do you make money. I just, from, doing my very little research for that week, realized this is a business that I need to learn more about. And I would basically just try to strike a conversation and ask anyone if they owned real estate or invested in real estate primarily. And this one person I was selling a pretty expensive surfboard to, ask him, what do you do? That's a normal conversation. And he's like, I own real estate. I own some apartment buildings, and I fix and flip properties.
Oh, nice.
And found him as, someone to have a conversation with. And before I knew I wanted a mentor, maybe even knew what a mentor was, I made him my mentor without really asking. I just said, how do I
Yeah. Tell me about this. Tell me
tell
about
me
that.
about this. Yeah. So that
Cool.
definitely helped. I ended up offering to, I think he was waiting for a contractor the next day to change out a sink or something along those lines. And this contractor has ghosted him a few times. And I grew up with a construction background through my dad's business. And I said, I'll do that. Let me show up tomorrow, cancel your contractor. I'll install your sink for free. I just want to talk real estate while we do that. And so he
Oh,
said,
how
sure.
nice.
And so I went out and I did small projects for him for free, never charged him, and just basically used that as a sounding board to find out a little bit more about the business of real estate until I had the confidence to actually take a leap and be a part of a transaction, and never looked back ever since.
How cool is that? That really is stepping up to be a leader. I mean, to get into something that you see and that you don't know a lot about, and then sneak in there and just say, okay, teach me, let me ask you questions. Let me pick your
Yeah,
brain. How
absolutely.
wonderful is that? That's awesome. I hope that's something that you've passed on to your own kids, because that's pretty cool as a skill.
I think curiosity is something that I try to instill in them. Be curious, ask questions, be curious. No matter where you are, you're starting at the beginning of whatever it is, right?
Yep.
Even if you're just gifted in something. My son just started playing, basketball for his high school, and it's not something he's really done up until now, but he had a growth spurt. He's 6 feet now, and he's like, I should be probably playing basketball. But he's behind many of the kids, because many of those kids have been in organized basketball for 5-6 years up until this point, and this is his first year, right? So I'm be curious, ask questions, and learn the plays and learn things. And although he's not the best on the team, he has incrementally probably improved in the last few months more than anyone else out there, just exponentially through his curiosity. So whether
Nice.
it's sports or whether it's business, I teach him to be curious and then have the confidence to talk to someone and basically ask the questions and understand that you don't know everything. Someone else has the answers that you could easily get from them.
Good, good. So once you started getting into real estate, how long were you in Hawaii for? Because I know, like you said, you're in Northern Virginia. When did you make the switch, and why would you leave Hawaii? Sorry. Especially now that it's winter, it's so cool.
Sure. Yeah. Once a year, I ask myself the question: why am I here again? No, I love it in this area. Northern Virginia is a beautiful area, but ultimately, we came here for family. My wife, who I met in Hawaii, at some point, we wanted to. I gave her the option. I said, "Where do you want to live? What do you want to do?" And at that moment, she was, I think, pregnant with our oldest. And her parents, who were living in Hawaii with us for a short period of time, ended up moving back at that exact same time. And so that kind of cross junction of all those life situations happening, she said, I want to go to Northern Virginia, I want to be near family. So we had the flexibility to be able to do that because of real estate being something that you could do from anywhere, and real estate not being location dependent in terms of where you need to be. That gave us the freedom to be able to do that. So we've been in Northern Virginia, multiple markets in Northern Virginia, for about 14 years now.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is home. I mean, we fully expect to go back to Hawaii at some point, maybe when the kids are out of school, and we still have a lot of family and real estate out there that we keep an eye on. But for the time being, this a great opportunity in this area.
So were you already doing it virtually from Hawaii?
Yes.
Before you
So I
came?
started my real estate journey investing in Hawaii, which even 20 plus years ago was very expensive.
Yeah.
Clearly, I wish I bought way more, back then, because what I thought was expensive now is, drop in the bucket to what it is now versus then. But yes, I partnered with my mentor and a few people on several deals, because I had no money. I worked selling
Yep.
surfboards, right? And so it was, how do you earn your way into a transaction? One of the first lessons I learned is there's only three players in any transaction. There's this person that finds the deal, there's a person that funds the deal with the money, and there's a person with the experience that oversees, develops, and manages the deal. And when I started to ask my mentor, who didn't know he was my mentor, like, how do I get into a transaction? He told me that, and he's like, do you have money to fund a deal? I said, no. I'm like, okay, well, do you have experience? If I gave you a deal today, would you know exactly what to do to fix and flip it or to turn it over as a rental? I said, have no clue. He said, okay, well, you can't do that either. So there's one thing that you can do right now until you get money, and that's go find deals. And so I like, that was how I brought value to the table. And I don't know if the word wholesaling was a thing back then, but that's what I did. I didn't try to sell my deals off that often. I actually wanted to bring a deal and bring it to my mentor or someone that was in my community and say, here, take this deal. It's so good, but I just want to be a part of it somehow. I want equity in this, and I want to learn. And so I had fractional ownership in several deals starting out until I earned enough money and got enough experience to say, how do I play one of those other roles, and start to do that. And then eventually got priced out from I wanted to focus on cash flow more than fix and flipping. And Hawaii is just not a cash flow market. After I learned that, I said, okay, I need to learn how to analyze markets remotely and set up teams remotely and be a landlord remotely, and which is what I ended up doing.
Wow. Okay. So how did you choose which markets you were going to go into, and how did you build a team remotely? Because building a team is one of the most valuable things, I feel, because I'm just one individual. So I can't do too much.
Sure.
So I know team building is something I've started, but it's one of those things that whenever I see someone that's got that experience, I'm like, how? Now, please tell me.
Yeah, the further along I go, it keeps coming back to, that is the most important thing. Your ability to build a team is your capacity. right? So everyone has a personal capacity of what they can do, but if you can build a team of two people and that's your ability as a leader to build and manage a team, then you have, let's say, doubled your capacity or whatever that capacity is. But if you have an unlimited ability to scale your network and teams, and we use the word team lightly, they don't all need to be employees, they could be contractors, they could be agents, they can be property managers, right? The
Mhm.
people that will help do things that you don't have to personally do anymore.
Right.
Yeah, that's it. And it was actually easier for me than most people think, because one, I had to build a team, because I couldn't afford Hawaii anymore. So it's like I got to buy somewhere else, and you go through the steps of, okay, I'm buying something in, you know, in Augusta, Georgia, and what's the first thing I need to do in Augusta, Georgia? Like, if you just thought through that, like, all right, I probably need someone to be my boots on the ground. I probably, a year into me being an investor, I actually got my real estate license as well. So I went down the dual path of real estate investor and real estate agent broker, which is a whole nother business that's interesting in of itself.
Right.
And so, but I saw the value um, of a expert on the ground there, whether it was a real estate agent, whether it was a wholesaler, whether it was another investor. But I saw the value, but my network made it easy for me to find other real estate professionals in that market. Now, finding a real
Now,
estate professional.
sorry to interrupt you, but is that why you became an agent broker for the
Um,
network, or was it for the saved commission or the knowledge, or what drove you
yeah.
to that? Because
So once again, had no idea what real estate agents did. No clue. Like,
a lot of them don't
so,
know.
I mean, my family, we've owned real estate. My parents had their home, they built homes. It's kind of like within family land, but I've never been a part of like a real estate transaction growing up. And so I didn't understand that, or I didn't know any real estate agents. Everyone knows 10 real estate agents now. I didn't know any real estate agents. And so I didn't understand really what they did. But someone close to basically a cousin of mine got his license, and he was a part-time agent, and he wasn't an investor. And at this point, I'm fairly knowledgeable about real estate, and I just needed access to more deals and access to market knowledge. And he was clueless, and like, now I can say that now because he's no longer part of the industry, but I couldn't fire my cousin or couldn't fire family. And so really my motivation to get my license was to not have to use that person anymore. And
Oh,
that was it. Never
terrible.
thinking I was going to be an agent, never thinking I was going to be a broker. But I just knew that they were the access to data, which now it's much more readily available, but they're the access to data,
Yeah.
information.
Yeah.
And so I went down that path. Now, I'm glad I did. I would say most real estate investors don't need to do that, because if you just find the right partner, find a investor friendly broker or agent, it makes it so much easier. But I'm very glad I did, because that was a business in of itself, separate from investing, that I became really, really good at. I became passionate about, and ended up being a big part of my life over the last 20 years as well. Which has given me a well-rounded view of the real estate market. But yeah, so it wasn't intentional at all. It seemed like the next logical step to do, and I did it. And that's what led me to where I am today.
Okay, so once you'd chosen a market, you needed to get the boots on the ground, and you needed to reach out to real estate agent. How did you end up, having the confidence or deciding, okay, that's the property I'm going to buy, which we can see on paper. On paper, it can pencil and we're like, good or nope. But having a management team, if was it single family that you went into, or did you do more than one?
Yeah,
Talk
so
about
I started
the
out
rest
with
of the team building.
Yeah, I started out with single family. I eventually transitioned into favoring duplexes, small and mid-sized multifamily, but basically residential has been my bread and butter for the vast majority of time. Over the last handful of years, we've added some flex, some commercial, some creative ways to rent residential, like short-term and co-living, as alternate options. But a long-term tenant has been by far my main focus. So back then there was no major, collective websites that kind of tied everyone together. So it was my brokerage. I found out that my brokerage had a branch, over there. And so I looked them up and then started calling agents and asking them, and wanted to find someone that kind of knew about real estate investing, that ideally was a real estate investor themselves. And that was tough. I think I ended up having to call 30 plus agents that were
Wow.
all very successful, like top agents in their network. But I felt like I spoke a different language as an investor. And I just wanted someone that could understand that language that was an investor as well. And I was able to find that agent. And then now that agent personally understood, not just was it a good deal for the market, was it a good deal as an investor? Like, does this pencil out, for the cash flow side of things? You can, as you know, you can buy a deal, um, 20,000 under market value, and it could still be a terrible investment if your goal is cash flow, and it might still not cash flow, right? You're getting a
Right.
deal, but it might not be a good investment. And so I
Right.
needed someone to understand that logic, with me, and found that, and then that led into, okay, who are your vendors, your property managers, your title companies, your lenders that I should know and trust. So if I found a really good agent that allowed me to, build my team, or sometimes I would find a property manager first, and that property manager would help me find a rock star agent or a rock star lender. So rock star vendors in any way typically work with other really, really good vendors in the investing industry. Rarely does a really good agent have terrible property managers, terrible, lenders to work with. So it's finding one rock star and then figuring out who their network is, and building it out from there. I'll say that's how I started. Now it's a little bit easier, and I take a slightly different approach. Although I still look for those team members, I actually look at other investors as well. So Bigger Pockets, there's so many amazing communities, a sub 2 community right, there's amazing communities. I would say the last 3, 4, 5 years has been this, amazing resurgence or growth of the online investor community. Go find someone that's doing exactly what you want to do. And now I'm at a different place where I do have capital, and so I reach out to them and I figure out, can I partner with them on some deal? Can I fund one of their deals and be a private money lender or a actual equity partner on a deal, when I'm testing out a market? So if I'm exploring going into a new market, if I have the time to
That's
do
how you
that, yeah, I figure out who's the players of doing exactly what I want to do, not just doing big things, but exactly what I want to do, and say, here, I would love to partner on a deal, and here's why. I've got experience elsewhere. I don't know your market. I'm not quite sure I'm going to be ready for your market yet, but one, I'll be your private money lender on your deal, and I would want you to treat me like a partner, basically allow me to see behind the curtain what's going on, the good, the bad, and the ugly, so that I can make a
Nice.
determination if I want to continue to invest in that market. So that is, I would say, the my preferred method of expansion now. And then
Nice.
from there, they probably have rockstar agents and rockstar property managers and rockstar teams that you can benefit from. So it's finding one person, and selling the vision of your growth with them, and hopefully being able to leverage them to fill out your team.
So then once you get to work with those folks, you would get to know those rock stars and you would be like, hey, do you have a friend who's also a rock star? Like, who else, what other rock stars can you
Absolutely.
introduce me to? And then you can build that way, because everybody, it's all about networking.
Yeah, that network is one of
Team.
the most important things, right? Your
Yeah. Yeah.
your your group of people that you can have like-minded conversations. Like I
Yep.
said, I was in real estate as an agent, and I went to work every single day, and I had an office of tons of agents I can have conversations with, but it wasn't the same conversation that I would have with another investor. It wasn't the conversation I have. And so it was two different languages or two different communities. Both had their own language, both had their own focus and their world lens view that they look at the world through. And I just needed to make sure that I'm always with an investor, standpoint, making sure that I'm having those conversations and in the right rooms with people going through the trenches like I am.
I love it. I love it. And Pansy says, network is your net worth. And I think
Absolutely.
that is a very apropos expression. It's very true, for sure.
Yes.
So then once you had a team that you could trust and that you felt confident about, even though you might have been at a bit of a distance or in a new market, then you would get out of the bit, like stop working in the business and go on to building another team. Is that what you did?
Yes. And so I typically build a team per market. So depending on, so you don't need to build a new team every time you buy a new house, because if you have a rock star team, the vision that I would sell my property managers, people ask all the time, how do you get property managers to be great property managers? Like, it's not
Yes.
just, there's some that are great, there's some that are terrible. No,
Yep.
everyone's terrible. Everyone's terrible if you don't have the right expectations. Just like every real estate agent is terrible if you don't have the right expectations. And so people are terrible because you guys are just, we just don't have similar or set expectations. And so I got really good at setting expectations. You can help a average property manager or agent excel and be the best to you if you
Mhm.
set the right expectations. You come to an agreement before you start that they're going to meet those expectations. Now, if you set the expectations and then they fall short and they don't meet it, then that's different, right? You go find someone else. But most people are doing the job that they think is the best job
Right.
for all of their clients, and they don't know that you're different. They don't know that you want something different, and you're there behind the scenes not saying anything, just angry at your property manager, angry at your agent, and they think everything's great because they're doing exactly what all their other customers want them to do, right? And you say, no, I'm different. I'm different. Here's why I'm different. Here's what I'm looking for. So when I talk to my potential property managers or almost any team member, I tell them, I don't want to buy, I'm looking at this one property, but I don't want to just buy one property in your market. I want to buy dozens of properties. I would love for you to have 50, 60, 70, 80 of my properties to manage. The only way that happens is if this partnership works. This is going to be a business partnership, and it's a profitable investment for me. And I have no control over that. We're going to buy the deal, but I'm going to rely on you to make sure that it's maintained, it's fully rented, and we put the right tenants in so we don't have a lot of turnover. So I'm going to need you to make sure that this, what I think is a good investment, becomes a great investment because of your management. If that happens, I buy more around you. I'll buy every single thing that comes up that's within my buy box around you. And so now you're selling the vision of growth. You're not someone that just wants them to manage one property, because that's, if they have, 500 doors and you're one of 500 doors, how much time and attention can they really give you? Nothing.
Right.
But
Right.
if you're going to be 100 of their 500 doors, you're going to be the most important single person in their entire business at some point. Sell the vision before you're there, as long as you're genuine on what your goals are.
Right. And also, you're making them special by letting them know that you can't do it without them making the properties great. And if they do, you will build around them. Immediately, you're elevating them. You're saying,
Absolutely.
can you live up to the challenge? Let's go. Let's do this together. I can bring you the benefit of having fewer bosses, and I'll make it worth your while. So, yeah, selling the vision, that's a good one. Very nice. And when they've got that vision, then they're not going to run away and take the next job. They will appreciate the fact that, okay, I can talk to you, I know what I'm doing, you're appreciating me, I want to do this or I want to do that. You've got a relationship that's better than just you're working for me and don't talk to me.
Yeah, I get the question on team building, not just in real estate, but even in businesses as well. That's so important. I was at a mastermind last year. I'm a part of a group called Go Abundance, and the CEO of that group,
Oh,
um,
that's how you know
Ma-
Sam.
yeah, Matt King, amazing guy, and he did this presentation on leadership and team building,
Mhm.
and a lot of stuff that we've heard before, but the phrase that I loved out of that the most is, how do you attract the best talent? How do you make sure that they come to you? How do you keep the best talent? And it was all about vision. And your vision needs to be so big that whoever you're trying to attract can see their vision within your vision. Right? If they have a bigger vision than you, there's no way they will ever see themselves within your circle. Right. And whether you know it or not, your vision is visible through your goals and through your actions and through your, what you're doing. So you need to have a big vision, and make sure people know what that vision is. And if you want to have a small vision, then you just got to find small team players. That's it. And it's hard to keep them, because eventually, if your team members, their vision grows beyond what you want to do, they're
Right.
going to leave. They have to leave. That is the natural, force of what's going to happen. So the best leaders always are expanding their vision. They're doubling, tripling, 10xing their vision because they realize they're bringing up talent with them and their vision is getting bigger. And if my vision doesn't get any bigger, then I can't support that team to continue to work with me. One of the examples I've seen recently is, so the Cashflow Breakfast Club is our mastermind community that we've built.
Mhm.
And it's something that I did individually for one location for many years. It was just kind of my passion project while I ran a brokerage, while I invested, while I did a bunch of other things. And I retired from my active role from the real estate brokerage side a little over a year ago. And one of the reasons I wanted to do that is because, one, it was just time to do that. I love doing it, but I needed the time and space to figure out what was next in life. And this Cashflow Breakfast Club community that I created, I saw so much potential in terms of the impact that it could make if we figured out a way to expand this to other markets, not just not just my market. And so initially, I'll walk you through kind of my mindset on that. It was like, all right, I'm doing one location, and let's just say there's 100 to 150 people that show up every single month in my location in Northern Virginia. But if I get another location an hour down the road that I'm doing as well, that's another 100 people that I can be helping, right? So I'm thinking impact, building the community, building the network. And it was, how many locations could I personally do? And that was my growth. And that was a vision about this big. And then I realized, okay, well, how do I teach other people to do this? And so now it's not based on my time. How do I train someone else to run their own community? Find an investor that wants to give back, that wants to add value to a community and have all the training content done for them. Can I do that? And so we came up with a system that we allow other investors to start their own Cashflow Breakfast Club locations, and we give them everything. And my growth projection for that was, all right, we could probably open up one location every 2 months, which is pretty good. Starting from one location to, all right, that's going to be 6 locations in a year.
Yeah.
We ended up opening up we had 20 locations committed in about 6 months of expansion, which is way beyond my vision. And I just realized I don't have a big enough vision. One, I didn't know the demand there, but I needed a bigger vision because I need to really start attracting the right talent to help me manage this, to help me grow this. We ended up going to the Bigger Pockets conference at the end of 2023. We were one of the main sponsors for that event. We had almost 100 applications for new locations in 2 days at Bigger Pockets. And so we have a backlog of applications of people that want to open up their own location. We'll probably be at 75 to 100 locations within a year. And so I just had to expand my vision. I need to figure out, okay, it's 50, it's 100 for a year. Now that excites me more. I don't know how we're going to get there. We're going to have to work to get there. But the talent that I'm able to attract to help me do that, no one was excited to help me open up one more location or 2 more locations, but to get to 100 locations and to become the largest real estate investor mastermind in the US, in-person mastermind in the US within a year, that's something pretty exciting. There's something valuable to that, and there's something cool to be a part of that vision. And so now I'm getting amazing rock star talent from all around the US coming to me and saying, I want to do this. I want to be a part of this. And it's only because my vision got bigger that I was able to attract that talent.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Pansy wants to know, are there physical locations, and do you have any in Illinois?
Yeah, so our model right now is only physical locations. So we are not, there's so many amazing online communities. And so I'm a part of several online communities. Bigger Pockets is one of them. But what I felt was missing was that in-person connection, that mastermind. Let's get together, let's huddle, let's look eye to eye, face to face, build a relationship. Let's see if we're going to do a deal together. If not, we're going to learn together and help each other. And so that's really what it comes down to. And so we are expanding to multiple locations. We have a bunch here in Northern Virginia, DC, Maryland market, because that's where we are. We just opened up Colorado, Austin, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Scottsdale, Arizona, California. There's probably another 15 coming on board. Illinois, I'm trying to think. I don't think we have Chicago yet, but I'd have to check to see if there's something on the pipeline coming down in Illinois. My guess is by the end of the year, we'll have one in every major market.
Mhm.
Once we kind of work out the kinks of how we can seamlessly provide this. It's really a coaching to the leaders. We
Yep.
give it to them in most cases for free. And it's 12 months of curriculum. Here's the slides. Here's the download. Here's the activities that you do. And the mastermind is much more than just a meetup. It's activities, it's gamified networking. It's a pretty cool thing that we put together. And so we got to find the right people that have the right energy and the right real estate experience to be willing to kind of donate their time to run this, as long as they see the value of growing their own individual community. So nothing in Illinois yet. If you want to run it, you can reach out to me, can help you learn how to run one of those locations. But if not, by the end of the year, my guess is that we will have a few there.
Okay. She seems to be stepping up. She's saying she knows a lot of investors.
Awesome.
And actually, Pansy does. She's well connected. I know that for sure. So that's pretty cool. And I love your vision. I think that's awesome. Like you said, if it's big enough so that they can look at this, if it's big enough for them to see themselves in it, Pansy will step in.
I love it.
And we're all Pansy, right? How awesome is that? I think that's awesome. I'm curious to know, you're also doing, oh yeah, Pansy. All right. Okay. Relax, Pansy. I'm going to ask him for sure. But we do have a couple of other people saying that you mentioned California. Do you have anything in LA?
So we have one leader for LA. We're looking for a second leader to do it with him because we want 2 people per. We have an Orange County location that's launched. That's 2 or 3 months in. Our next one is probably LA, and we have, I believe, a San Francisco person in training out there. But basically, we look for 2 or more people. And if it's one person that reaches out to us, and we try to help them find a partner so that they can run it together, because it's not a job. It's, we want them to have fun doing it, but also have the freedom to still go on vacation if it, doesn't line up, perfectly, and you still have a continuous in-person event. Most of these locations get to 70, 80, 100 plus people showing up in person every month, and that you're making a huge impact. So you really want to keep it going once you build up the momentum.
And of course, working with those people. I mean, that's how you can make a lot of money. It's not, I mean, is there an entry for the mastermind?
No. So we do everything for free. And I know because I believe in I pay probably $100,000 a year plus on masterminds and groups that I'm a part of. I'm a huge believer in paying for value. But I also know if that was my entry level at 21, I would not have gotten there. Right. So I needed an ability to find it for free as well. And so I'm trying to provide it for free. Not to say that you should never pay for education. Absolutely. But we're going to give you the baseline of almost every major real estate topic over 12 months. We go from fix and flip to, cash flow, to the BRRRR strategy, to co-living, to Airbnbs, to syndications, to everything. Right. And every month there's a different topic. And then at some point you use that to refine your skills of if you're already doing it, or if you're just getting started, where am I going to go next? Am I going to partner with someone in that group? That happens quite a bit. Do I have experience, but I need a private money lender? There's someone in the group that doesn't have experience, but they have money and they don't have time. They would rather be a private money lender, or vice versa. So a lot of pairing that happens. From a leadership standpoint, once again, our leaders don't sell anything. It's completely voluntary, and we want them to be go-givers, meaning they're give, and without really any expectation of return. Now, the beauty of that is if you are true, willing to give without any expectation of return, you're going to get so much in return no matter what. I tell people I haven't ever made a dime running the Cashflow Breakfast Club, but I've made millions of dollars running the Cashflow Breakfast Club because of all the deals that came to me, the opportunity. At some point, if you give so much value to somebody, they're going to be like, I got to figure out how to give value back to this person. I really, literally, they changed my life. I need to figure out how to be. And now you have not just referrals, but you have like cheerleaders and advocates. And that's really what we do within the Cashflow Breakfast Club. We teach our leaders to become like the best mentors, coaches for free. And if they have a goal to grow the real estate business, their real estate business will grow because everyone else is going to be so thankful, and they're going to figure out how to give back to them.
I love it. I love it. And it's very, very true. I think that if you are getting so much from someone or a group, you want to give back. You want to help. You feel who can just take.
Some people, but
There
most
are a few. There
normal
are a few.
people,
Yeah. But we don't want to be with them.
we're governed by reciprocity. So it's human
Exactly.
nature. Reciprocity is like we feel unbalanced. Like I need to give back to balance the scale because you've given so much value. That's exactly what happens. And it turns into an amazing community. We teach our attendees, everyone in there needs to be balanced as well, needs to be givers. So don't show up to the meetup and just say, hey, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for this. It's like, how do I add value to everyone else in that room? And if you're just trying to add value to everyone else in the room, everyone else is going to be thinking like, man, that person really added value to me. He told me this, or he connected me with someone that I was looking for, and they're going to remember that. So we teach everyone to be go-givers within that community. And if everyone plays the game correctly, then it becomes a very, very tight-knit and very, very growth-oriented community.
I love it. I love it. And Jay is obviously singing the praises. I know that he's now in North Carolina, but he is saying he's benefited, and I believe it.
Jay's got a rock star team. He always gives so much value, and he's come to multiple locations for us. And absolutely, he's a great example of a go-giver that is genuinely willing to give value, and because of that, people are willing to give value back to him.
They want to work with him, and they want to, that's all there's to it. Yep. Hi, Rosa. Good to see you. And I agree, giving back is critical for sure. And at More Home Solutions is, yes. Yeah. For sure. So I love what you're doing there, but I also want you to talk a little bit, because we're starting to run out of time a bit. And I want to hear about your, purchasing of portfolios and portfolio repositioning. Talk to us about that, because you started off, with a condo, buying single family homes, but now you've got this thing called portfolio repositioning. Do tell.
Yeah, so I call it the portfolio burr. I was on the Bigger Pockets podcast a few years ago, and this is the main topic that I talked about that they asked me to share. And it's become, well, I'm a very lazy person. I am. And so I'm always trying to figure out how to get more with doing less is really what it comes down to. And my vision kept growing as a real estate investor by buying 1 property a year to 5 properties a year to 30 properties a year. And I keep wanting to scale that and grow and grow and grow. But to do 50, 60, 70, 100 individual transactions, that's a lot. It's a lot. That is more than a full-time job, and I don't want a full-time job. I want to run a thriving business, but the acquisition side of things, that is where most of the work happens, right? Acquisitions and the stabilization before you turn it over to a property manager to stabilize it. There's a lot of work, and so the one thing that I found that I could simplify my life on is stop buying one property at a time. I buy 10 properties or more at a time. And that's really my buy box. So I want 10 properties or more. And so I'm looking for a tired landlord, probably self-managing, maybe just tinkering for after 20 years, putting it with a property manager. They're seeing their cash returns. They're not as good as it was because now they got to pay someone. And they're saying, why am I still doing this? I should be in Hawaii. I should be in the Outer Banks, right? So they want to go retire. That's my ideal customer. Because if they decide, I don't want to do this anymore, let me sell off these properties and eventually use that money to do something else, they typically got to sell them one at a time, because most buyers only buy 1 property at a time. They probably got to space it out over 2+ years, because it's often based on tenant leases expiring and being able to repair that property to get highest value. So from the moment a landlord says, I'm done, to realistically being able to sell a 10, 15, 20 property portfolio is 2 to 3 years. And
wow.
where I can come in and say, I'll buy the entire thing. Just we'll buy it, we'll work out a deal. And what is that worth to you? If I can save you 2 years of headaches, you lost a passion for it. So I'm working to get a deal for me, but giving them value of their time and saying, yeah, this makes sense. Let me exit one time. So that's exactly who I'm looking for. So I buy the entire portfolio, the good, the bad, and the ugly. They have to be residential properties. My bread and butter is 4 units or less, although we do have apartment buildings, but I really want properties that I can put 30-year debt on. So anything that's commercial, as you guys know, you're going to have balloon payment debt on it. And I do have properties with that, but those are riskier. We're going to see probably a lot of hurt over the next year or two in our market directly tied to ballooning debt on commercial properties.
Yeah.
So that's one of the main reasons why I want to stay in the 30-year amortization, no balloon payment debt, and that leads me to residential properties. And so I typically want them to be duplexes or higher. I don't do a lot of single family homes anymore. Just they don't cash flow as well, compared to the actual price that you put into them. I will keep a single family home if it could be converted to co-living, which is a strategy that I love, like rooming houses and co-living, or short-term or mid-term, some sort of, furnished rental as well is also a great strategy. So if you could do one of those, then I'll consider the single family home. But if it's not a market for that, I will sell off, fix and flip, or wholesale off those single family properties and just keep the multifamily properties that are cash flowing. Some of those properties are vacant. And so we're going to do the full rehab and we'll do the BRRRR. We'll raise the value and we'll do a BRRRR on them. Many of them are tenant occupied, and we can't do anything to the property on the inside. Typically, it's typically outside maintenance. But by selling off some properties and hopefully getting a good deal on your fix and flip or wholesale, by being able to BRRRR a few of the properties, let's say the 2 or 3 properties that you can't actually renovate on, overall, you're able to extract back your equity, because a BRRRR is you're trying to get back as much of your equity as possible in a cycle. And we're able to get the majority of our equity back by not actually having to rehab all the properties, because we got an overall discount on the entire portfolio where it starts to make sense. So out of 10 properties or so, maybe I have to sell off 1 or 2 of them, rehab 2 or 3 of them, and do the BRRRR. And then we're able to refinance all of them and, put 30-year debt on it that we're happy with. And not happy with in this market. No one's happy with the 30 any interest rate debt, but 30-year debt that makes sense. And basically pull our equity back out and do it again. So we do this in a cycle, every 6 to 8 months or so. We're trying to deploy capital from a cycle that we've done.
Very nice. Am I correct in thinking that when you do refinance on the ones that you are keeping and that you are BRRRRing, you do it as a portfolio?
No, I don't. I typically do individual. So actually, one of the ideal buyers for us is someone that did that and their loan is in a portfolio. And that is one more layer that makes it very difficult for them to sell off individual properties. If you have a cross-collateralized, loan, and you want to sell off one property, it's doable, but it's very tricky. Your bank is like, no, I don't want to do that. Or you do that, but we're going to get all the money, right? So there's complications, hurdles that just leads to people saying, all right, I just got to sell this whole thing, right? So we are few, one of the few buyers that just buys the entire portfolio. We're not competing with the big apartment, syndicators trying to buy, 5,000 units at a time. But we're typically bigger than the average investor that's buying one property at a time. So we don't have a lot of competition in this space because it's very hard. It is a lot of work, but it allows us to have minimal competition and scale with fewer transactions to focus on.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So do you get any of those? Do you try to get seller financing or creative financing on a portfolio? Because
Absolutely.
how much do you need? About how much cash do you need to come up with to be able to buy a small portfolio of 10? Probably a lot.
So depends on the market, right? So let's say an average of between 150 and 250 per property, depending on where you are. Some markets are less than that, some markets are more than that, but let's say 200,000, 10 properties, that's a $2 million portfolio as an example.
Right.
So you can get initial financing, 25% down DSCR financing if they're cash flowing, but now becomes expensive if you're going to renovate those and want to pull out money again, right? So maybe you're going in with either cash, if you have cash from a rollover from another transaction, or you're getting, short-term bridge, financing to get you there. But yes, so it is
Wow.
a lot of moving parts, but we've been doing this for a few years and it works. And I tell everyone the strategy, but the reality is most people don't do it because they're like, yeah, that's tough, that's difficult. But it's made our life easier, and we don't have to stress about, okay, we didn't buy a property this week. All right, well, we might buy 10, in a couple of weeks, or we might buy 30 in a few weeks. And we're always growing our portfolio, and overall, we're putting safe debt on it that even if the market crashes in a year or 2 years or 3 years, it still cash flows. So we're still going to be okay. We won't need to refinance because we won't have any balloon debt on these properties that'll force us to refinance in 3, 5, or 7 years.
Right, right. I do think it would be more work, but if you can do it, especially, just get it together with a small team to do it, I think it could be. It sounds wonderful. Do you teach that in your Cash Flow Breakfast Club?
Yes, we do. Absolutely. So this is one of many advanced strategies that we talk about. I don't try to push anyone down one particular path. I'm about owning cash flow, and there's so many ways to do that. So just pick a path, get really good at it, and then there's lots of coaching that you can get within the Cash Flow Breakfast Club to get there. But that's one of the advanced strategies we talk about.
Wow. All right. Well, we better satisfy our viewers by making sure they know how to get a hold of you. So, where can we get a hold of you?
Yes, I'm on Instagram and Facebook, Omni the Investor Guy.
Okay.
We have a website, cashflowbreakfastclub.com.
Usually I
And
have all of this up before my guest
don't worry
even
about it.
arrives, and for some reason I didn't. I don't know why.
Yeah,
So,
cashflowbreakfastclub.com. You'll find it. There's launch, there's partner, there's join. If you want to launch your own club, there's a tab there to apply. If you want to join, you'll find out where the locations are and where the coming ones are going to be launching. And then how we fund a lot of these is we bring in sponsors like our title companies or our preferred hard money lenders, and then they pay to be our affiliate sponsors there. And so that allows us to continue to provide it for free to the community, and even free to our leaders if we find the right partners to subsidize it, because they're typically partners that we need to bring on anyways. We need our rockstar hard money lenders and our title companies and our agents, so they can benefit from being the exclusive one in the community.
that's great. Okay, guys, that's where you can go, as well as IG. And I feel even more excited. I was excited about learning all about your history and everything, but it's so dynamic what you're doing. I think it's awesome.
Thank
And
you. Thank you.
I really owe a big thanks to Jay, because he wouldn't shut up, Omni, Omni, Omni. I'm like, what's Omni? So then I started from there, but I am grateful. I think we've learned a heck of a lot. And I want to say thank you for being here. And guys, thank you to you for being here also. Just a second. I need to, if I can do this, I'll just say, show your thanks if you can by saying thank you to Omni, and you know where you can reach him. Oh, then we've got Vanessa coming up. Yeah, he brought me up. Okay.
Yep.
Very, very nice. All right, so everyone, we're going to say goodbye, and we will see you next week.